The FIA say they are aware of radio messages between Red Bull chief and race director Michael Masi that have raised fresh questions over the outcome of the Abu Dhabi title decider. Max Verstappen snatched the Formula One World Championship from his rival Lewis Hamilton in dramatic fashion 2 months ago, with supporters calling into question the decision-making of Masi in the final knockings of the race. Having led from the start, a safety car was deployed with 5 laps remaining following a collision involving Nicholas Latifi. Hamilton looked set to coast to victory with 5 lapped cars separating himself and Red Bull's Verstappen. However, Masi ordered the lapped cars to unlap themselves, resulting in Verstappen closing the gap on his British rival. With the Dutchman on a fresher set of tyres, he was able to pass Hamilton on the final lap to win the championship. Masi has been accused of giving in to pressure applied by Red Bull chief Christian Horner and sporting director Jonathan Wheatley, resulting in his decision not to follow the FIA rules and allow the cars to pass. The video footage of a conversation between Masi and sporting director Wheatley appears to provide further evidence of the race director reacting to Red Bull's demands. In the radio messages, Masi is heard receiving advice from Wheatley on how to deal with the lapped cars, with Red Bull desperate for a final lap shootout. Masi takes on the message from Wheatley, then decides to instruct the 5 lapped cars to unlap themselves. When questioned by Mercedes chief Toto Wolff, Masi is heard repeating the same language used by Wheatley in the previous message. Wheatley first says, "Those lapped cars, you don't need to let them go right the way round to catch up with the back of the pack. You only need to let them go. And then we've got a motor race on our hands." "Understood," the Australian responds before making his decision. When Wolff demands a reason for that controversial call, Masi replies, "Toto, it's called a motor race, okay?" The video has gained traction on social media, but is not a new revelation. It was initially released by Formula One 4 days after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but only now has it caused a whirlwind online with the hashtag F1XED, or F1 Fixed, if you will, trending as a result. The BBC reports that the FIA have access to all the radio communication from Abu Dhabi, so are aware of the footage. They are due to release the findings of their inquiry into the controversial ending to the season finale at a meeting of the F1 Commission next Monday. The inquiry was launched to determine how the mistakes in the desert were made, with BBC also reporting that figures within the FIA acknowledged that Masi failed to follow the rules correctly, which consequently had an effect on the title outcome. The same outlet claims that there is a growing belief that Masi's position as race director is untenable following his judgment calls in Abu Dhabi. The race director is afforded the discretion to decide whether lapped cars are allowed through to unlap themselves, but the rules set out that any cars that have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap and the safety car. Yet Masi only ordered for the cars between Hamilton and Verstappen to unlap themselves, and opted to leave any cars between the rest of the top 6. Moreover, FIA rules explain that once lapped cars pass, racing will start at the end of the following lap. Had the rules been followed, Verstappen would have been unable to overtake Hamilton because the race would not have been restarted due to it being the final lap. However, Masi restarted the race immediately, which saw the Dutchman pass Hamilton with ease to win the title. There was some uncertainty surrounding Hamilton's future following what felt was an unjust ending to the 2021 season. The 37-year-old undertook an 8-week social media silence after the Abu Dhabi race, but recently resurfaced on social media. He shared an image of himself at the Grand Canyon with the caption "I'm back" on Instagram, and was seen visiting the Mercedes factory at Brackley, Northamptonshire, with preparations for the new season well underway. Former F1 driver and now esteemed pundit Martin Brundle says the audio of Jonathan Wheatley pleading with Michael Masi during the Abu Dhabi finale is really uncomfortable and hugely unacceptable. He says F1 cannot have a situation where the teams can influence the race director. It's not new news. And also, I think you have to understand that it's not necessarily telling Michael Masi something he didn't already know, he told Sky F1. Let's not assume it's giving Masi information he didn't already know in terms of what he could do and what he couldn't in terms of the lapped pack. Of course, it's really uncomfortable and a lot of people are unhappy. Hamilton fans, Mercedes fans. And you don't even have to be a Lewis Hamilton fan to think that forever he should be an 8-time world champion, because for me, see, the really crucial regulation that wasn't carried out was that the safety car should have come in at the end of the following lap. But we also know that unwritten rules and meetings, which shouldn't supersede anything, were let's try not to have a race finish behind a safety car. Hugely unacceptable. I met so many fans that were new to Formula One last year particularly, and fans in general that were hugely upset by what happened. We cannot, and we know it's going to change, have teams getting at the referee while he's trying to make critical decisions with cars on the track and marshals and breakdown vehicles. The car was on fire at certain times. He's trying to manage that, and he's getting lobbied left, right and centre. You can imagine that on a football ground or rugby ground is completely unacceptable, and that will change. It's not pretty for Formula One at all, but I don't think this audio today changes the really uncomfortable narrative of what happened. The FIA will release the findings of their investigation on the Friday of the Bahrain Grand Prix. F1 Managing Director Ross Brawn has already made it clear that as of this season, the teams will not be allowed to contact the race director. And there remains question marks over whether Michael Masi will keep his job as race director. It's widely believed that Mercedes dropped their appeal over the Abu Dhabi race on the proviso that Masi would be sacked. However, with the investigation into the race, it still remains unclear whether he'll lose his job or stay on. There have been reports suggesting that he will keep his job, but he will have someone working alongside him to ease the pressure from the role. But FIA's head of single-seaters, Peter Bayer, says Formula One could have a new race director in 2022. Michael did a super job in many ways, we told him that, but also that there is a possibility that there could be a new race director. Bayer, who has long held the role of the FIA's Secretary General for Motorsport, is conducting the inquiry launched following the controversy of Abu Dhabi. Masi failed to follow the rules in two different ways at Yas Marina, over the handling of lapped cars and over the timing of the restart of the race. Hamilton is said to have lost faith with the FIA and will not decide whether to return to F1 in 2022 until he sees the results of the FIA's inquiry. The FIA is working on a new structure for race control. Bayer said this was likely to involve splitting the responsibilities Masi formerly held between a number of different people. Bayer, speaking to the respected Austrian journalist Gerhard Kunzig, said, "We are looking at dividing the various tasks of the race director, who is also sports director, safety and track delegate. That was simply too much. These roles are divided between several people. This reduces the burden on the race director." Bayer confirmed that a revision of the safety car rules was being considered, as well as a restructuring of race control. He pointed out that in the US-based NASCAR series, if neutralization is necessary in the last two laps of the race, the lap counting ends and the laps are added at the end of the safety car phase. This could cause a fuel problem in F1, which is why it's being looked at more closely. We also asked the teams if their requirement not to finish a race under a safety car was still relevant, to which they all agreed. And he said the FIA was considering setting up a mission control at its base in Geneva, similar to the remote strategy groups the F1 teams operate over race weekends to support the race director. He confirmed that the team bosses would no longer be able to talk directly to the race director. The team managers will still be able to. They have to be able to ask questions, Bayer said, but we want to build in a buffer with an employee who accepts these requests. In the future, the race director will be able to concentrate on his task and will no longer be distracted. Bayer underlined that he was only in a position to advise on changes and that he would submit his plans to the FIA president Mohammed Ben Sulayem. The two would then agree to a proposal which would be submitted to the FIA World Council. That will happen on the 18th of March, on the eve of the new season. However, although Bayer did not specify it in the interview, his plans will be presented to the teams at a meeting of the F1 Commission on the 14th of February.